Well, Christmas Eve is tomorrow, and quite literally, children and others are already jumping around. And many cannot wait for this special day to arrive, the time off from school or work, and time to see family and friends like Nora was so excited, the presents, the food, time to remember the greatest present of all, which is the love Jesus gives us by coming to us. For other people, there's still way too much to do to prepare before Christmas. Cleaning, cooking, shopping, traveling. It may be a bit stressful and you're ready to jump up and off your pew and get ready to get busy. Still others are anxious for the whole season just to be over, because it can't be with loved ones. And Christmas hasn't had a happy ending like a made-for the Hallmark Channel Christmas movie for a very long time, if ever. Well, today's message is for all of you, no matter how you feel about Christmas right this moment. Today we're going to pause the joy of Christmas and slow down the story. Way too often we hear about the angel coming to see Mary, telling her the good news about giving birth to Jesus. She accepts. Then there's the angel telling Joseph about Mary's pregnancy and not to send her away, nor to be afraid, but to stay with her, help her to raise the baby Jesus. And then suddenly they're off to Bethlehem and Mary gives birth. What about the 9 months in between the angel's announcement and going to Bethlehem? What is happening then? Let's pause today and take some time to think about those 9 months. Soon after the angel tells Mary that she's pregnant with Jesus, Mary goes off to her cousin Elizabeth's house to visit. Elizabeth, we hear, is 6 months pregnant with John the Baptist. Luke 1:56, which is right after today's reading, tells us that Mary stayed there with Elizabeth for 3 months, probably leaving right after John the Baptist is born. What do you imagine Mary and Elizabeth talked about during those 3 months? We do know that Elizabeth greeted Mary with happiness and acceptance. Elizabeth calls Mary blessed and is overjoyed that Mary, with baby Jesus, came to visit her. That sense of welcome and acceptance. And even though Mary responds to the angel that she would be God's servant and be Jesus' mother, you know she faced judgment and gossip. In the Gospel according to Matthew, we know that Joseph is concerned about the disgrace Mary is facing. Back then, Mary could have been stoned to death for being pregnant, not by her husband. Imagine the rejection both Mary and Joseph faced from family and friends. It would have felt so good to Mary to be so warmly accepted and welcomed by her cousin Elizabeth. Elizabeth would have understood a bit about how Mary was feeling to serve God in such a way. Because Elizabeth had become too old to be pregnant, but by a miracle, she too was pregnant and going to give birth to John the Baptist, who was going to be this great prophet. Mary and Elizabeth likely would have spoke about how they felt receiving such miracles. And what about Joseph? If the people of Nazareth didn't know Mary was pregnant before she went to visit Elizabeth, they surely did when she came back. The little bump showing. I wonder if Mary dreaded going back home. She had to face all the gospel and threats, and there was no way to text or FaceTime with Elizabeth back then. She would have been on her own. There's a movie that came out in 2006 called The Nativity that portrays really well what Mary and Joseph probably faced. Have any of you seen that movie, The Nativity? If not, I highly recommend it. It's worth watching. I just saw it again this past Friday, and not only does it do a good job of showing what Mary and Joseph and her family might have faced, The movie does a great job at showing what it was like to live back then under Roman rule. People were taken by Roman soldiers just to pay off a debt owed by the family. Land and animals were taken to pay taxes, and then the people had no way to earn income or grow their own food. So they couldn't eat, and they didn't have a way to pay the future taxes. The people of Judea remembered those prophecies of old that one day a king would come to them, the Messiah. But those who spoke about it were in danger, and they were killed. Then in the midst of all this drama and danger, the census begins, and Joseph and Mary must travel to Bethlehem. It's a fairly long journey, and she's more than 8 months pregnant. They get to Bethlehem just in time. I can imagine the relief Joseph must have felt seeing the kind of skyline of Bethlehem in the distance. You know the story. Joseph can't find a place to stay, but then an innkeeper allows him to stay in a stable, a barn, with the animals. But what we forget is back then, hospitality and welcoming people, especially relatives, was expected. Bethlehem is full of Joseph's relatives. That's why he has to go back there. It's his hometown. Not one of them finds a place for them to stay. The drama and danger followed Mary and Joseph all the way to Bethlehem. For some reason, the gossip gets ahead of them or whatever, but none of Joseph's relatives give him or his pregnant fiancée a place to deliver the baby. Family is still family back then. It's such a fascinating bit of information for Luke to ignore. All we hear from Luke is that Mary gives birth, wraps Jesus in the cloth, and, quote, lays him in a manger because there's no place for them in the inn. That's the only phrase about that whole time that we think about. There was no place for them in Bethlehem. There's so much being said in those few words. During all the 8 to 9 months we so often skip over hearing the story of Jesus' birth, Mary and Joseph faced so many challenges: rejection, death, danger, and all kinds of drama. Mary was so blessed to have Elizabeth and Joseph in her life. So who are the family and friends and neighbors who bless you? Pause. Take a moment to thank God for them. Joseph protects Mary and Jesus. Pause. Take a moment and think about who looks out for you. And thank God for them. Think of the family and circumstances in which Jesus is born. Take a moment to pray for all the hurting families and painful circumstances that come to your mind. Jesus is not only born in a humble stable, a barn, but amidst all the drama and danger of this world, the first people to know the miracle of Jesus' birth and come to visit are lowly shepherds, the workers that are taken for granted, even ignored, even though they provide the wool for clothes and the meat to eat. Let's take a moment so that we each may pray for the farmers around here and for help for them and all the challenges they face nowadays. You see, this is the good news of Jesus' birth. Jesus comes first to those who are hurting the most, those who are rejected, looked down upon, those who are victims of all the drama and danger in this life. John the Baptist, even an unborn infant, knew the truth that Jesus came to show God's great love. and this is why he leaped for joy. This is also why Mary sings the song we read responsively today. The song that's recorded in Luke 1, 46 through 55, a song often called the Magnificat. This song sings of God lifting up the lowly and remembering the promises of mercy to Israel and all people. We sang a version of Mary's song for our opening hymn, number 251. And in a few minutes, we're actually going to sing another version, hymn 723. But this time, as you sing and hear the words, imagine what Joseph and Mary and all the lowly people of Judea were facing when Jesus was born. Think of why Mary's singing this. And may God's mercy, love, and promise touch you where you are hurting most. May you be certain that Jesus is the light amidst the darkness of the world, that Jesus, born in the most vulnerable and lowly of situations, was and remains Lord of all. Jesus was born for you. Jesus was born for those who are too excited about Christmas to sit still and need to jump around. Jesus was born for those who are overwhelmed with too much to do and can barely sit still, hear, and listen. Jesus was born for those of you who are hurting and grieving and simply just not in the mood for Christmas this year. Jesus was born for you and for all people, no matter what injustice or pain they face. With the birth of Jesus, we know the mercy and love of God. We know that God desires that no one should suffer at the hands or words of another. Jesus was born for us and dies for us just so that the world may change, or as we sing here in a moment, churn. Take a deep breath. Pause. 9 whole months Joseph and Mary waited for Jesus, and the work then begins. Flee to Egypt to protect him, to raise him, watch him suffer and die. Also that one day you and I may gather together here to see the face of Christ and love and the light of Jesus in one another. Look at the 4 small candles. Louis Lytton Advent wreath, representing hope, peace, love, and joy that Jesus brings. In a big dark world, what are 4 little small candles? What can our faith mean? Everything. For the hope, peace, love, and joy we so desperately need has come. Amen.